Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. All right, welcome back to the Football Forecast, Week 11. All right, you're probably wondering there's only 3 people sitting here during this episode. Johnny and I know this is more of an inside joke since we started this format of this show. Well, it really wasn't a show. It was a, pick segment.
The segment, yeah.
Kind of, and then it turned into, this whole thing where everybody wanted to be involved. So, we're 3 people this week. So, back to the old times. But before we do that, make sure you follow the Football Forecast on social media at TFB Forecast ETB, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You know the deal by now. Make sure you check out all the clips. Thursday Night Football. Well, the picks for Thursday Night Football. Then you get the clips. Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. You know the drill. Lock of the Week, Lone Wolf of the Week, Crybaby of the Week. I feel like we could put the Cowboys there every week. So make sure you check all that out as well. YouTube.com/ETB Network to find this great show, along with all the other great shows, which are scrolling across the bottom as well. So if you're following this show, go follow all those shows as well and give them a like, a follow. It helps the algorithm, please. If you can't watch on the YouTube side, listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Acast, YouTube Premium. Wherever you get audio, you can find it. I promise. And the Football Forecast is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can up on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. The NBA streams have been really, really good. We did a Veterans Day stream. We had five or six games, all starting at 8 p.m. Now, Johnny gets that reference because you and I talk about game start times all the time. That was the NBA in sync. I've never seen that ever.
Very rare.
So that was a good time. Like I said, playback.tv/ETB Network. We're planning on doing a lot of Knicks games, a lot of Nets games, a lot of Celtics games, and our NBA whip around shows. So there's a lot to get to. But as I said, there's 3 of us here. And usually we're what? 7, 6, 7, 8?
We could be, it could be 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on the week. But
we're 3. And for people who know ETB Network history, there was a show called Game On.
Yeah.
And that's where this show we can say is loosely based off.
It started as an added segment because we didn't want to add, part of the episode was doing picks and we knew we needed some time. So it's like, well, let's make it its own segment. And now it's become its own show. And I think it's kind of funny you bring that up because I'm going to reference something in one of the games later on that has to do with the segment at the time coming up. So stay tuned for that, Nick.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that because I love nostalgia.
Yeah, nobody knows. If you follow me on Twitter at Montalbano when I do the picks also in tweet form, I do bring up something from the past, and that may have something to do with it if you pay very, very close attention. So stay tuned. Nice teaser for later on.
I love the good old TV tease.
Yes.
But let's first quickly go back it was not a good week. It was a tough week, but I wouldn't say it was because of the picks. I would say it was just the games were all close all weekend.
Well, it was exciting in that regard. Yeah, I mean, depending as a football fan in general, but I think it speaks also to, here we are, Nick, in the middle of November, and there's still a lot that we do not know about the NFL here in the middle of November. I think, you hear a lot of the experts talking and analysts are talking about the fact that it looks like we are setting up for a Lion-Chiefs Super Bowl. That seems too easy, though, and I just don't know, because we still have a lot of question marks with a lot of teams with now less than 2 months to go in the season. And that's where I'm going to get very, very excited about. I also help out with the college football stuff too. And it's the same in college football this year. It's so wide open. I couldn't tell you right now here in the middle of November who's going to be there. But these games have been so hard to figure out, hence why we've been struggling, because not only have you had a lot of teams win but not cover, but you're having a lot of these big-time underdogs winning outright. So it's really, really hard to figure out. And I wonder if we could be seeing that again coming up here in week 11 this week.
Yeah, so I will tell you how it was a tough week. Nobody scored over 19 points. Usually we have a 20-point person or two, usually. Mm-hmm. 19 was the highest score this week. 11 was the lowest score this week. We're all over the map with picks. I'll just quickly give you the leads total. So I'm in the lead with 197. Behind me is Anthony and Pat with 190. Then it's Zan with 188. Then it's Nick D with 183. Then it's Tom with 182. Grant with 175. And Ben with 167. So we're all 30 points within, which I don't know if that's close in our standards, Johnny, or not. But
it's not, but it still have a lot of time to go. So, I mean, things can change. We've seen that before. And I'll tell you right now, I haven't done my record based on a point system, but 2 years ago, I was struggling to get to 500. Last year, I was over 500. And this year, I had such a great first week. And every week since then, it's just been a near struggle. With the game Thursday night between the Commanders and the Eagles getting that right, I am actually at 500 at 76, and 1. But that just proves how difficult this year is. A lot of the people that I listen to, that I watch, and that I follow are all struggling this year. But in some ways, it's a good thing, though.
I'll give you. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, I was going to say it makes it a lot of fun, because as much as we try and predict and preview these games, they still have to play them out.
It's amazing how Vegas gets this right most of the time too.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing, I'm not going to give the records, because the actual win-loss tie records stunk.
Yeah.
But I will say 6 wins, predicting the actual games, was the highest total this week. 6 wins. So I'll leave it at that, because our records were terrible.
Well, and one final thing before we start this week. I've been doing this for 3 years. I have never seen so much bad luck when it comes to bench locks. 6 of us, 6 of us bench locked the Vikings against the Jaguars last week.
Let's see, 1, 2, won, 3,
but they did not cover.
Yeah, 6.
It was a record number. The Vikings were a touchdown favorite. It jumped 3 points before we recorded last Friday, and the Vikings won by 5.
Well, no one expected Sam Darnold to flop against the Jaguars of all teams.
Not against the Jaguars. We were thinking he was going to reality check at some point, but not against the Jaguars. Again, just to show you can't figure this out.
I mean, I had the Commanders as a lot. That was frustrating, and it's even more frustrating for me because Mike Williams was the one who caught the touchdown for Pittsburgh. We'll get to the Jets later.
Yes, we will.
And the Chiefs locked by Ben. I was just kind of perplexed because the Chiefs haven't covered in how many games now?
Well, just think. I mean, 9-0 and a plus 58 point differential. So that means they're averaging a win by less than a touchdown this year.
It's the lowest point differential for an undefeated team in NFL history
through 9 games. Correct.
So I guess let's just get into it, because it's going to be another.
They got the game of the week. In fact, the game of the year coming up later on Sunday. But let's do this thing, guys, for week 11. Let's try and get some winners, and let's most importantly have some fun for week number 11. Grant, it is in fact a Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi special on Fox. A huge NFC North showdown with your Chicago Bears, who are home to face Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers a 5.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I, my God, I will. I'm gonna pick the Packers to win, and they will probably cover because the the um the the Bears just they they're they're the most dysfunctional I've ever seen. I mean, they fire Shane Waldron, so that's a positive. And honestly, anything that Thomas Brown can do is going to be better than what he's been doing the past 3 weeks. But I can't see the Bears winning this. If I had to predict the score, I would say like 24-14 or something like that. But the Packers will win and cover as much as it pains me to say it.
So timing is everything when we pick these games, and history means a thing when picking these kind of games. And then there are times where both are true, and I think that's the case in this game. Jordan Love's groin is no longer an issue. The Bears are collapsing.
I wish it was.
What's that?
I wish it was just to see.
Yeah, well, the bye week definitely helped the Packers.
I actually don't. I don't wish that. It's just I always have to have a little bit of resentment towards the Packers.
I know you can't hide it. I totally understand as a division rival. Listen, we have that in the NFC East, and Nick has that in the AFC East for sure. But the other thing, there's so many things with this too. Matt LaFleur doesn't lose to the Bears, and then we all know about the obvious news from the Bears entering this week. Their remaining schedule is by far the toughest of anybody.
Absolutely.
The rest of the league, Caleb Williams is just lost games to number 2 pick Jaden Daniels and number 3 pick Drake May. We all know about the scoring issues for the Bears, and of course, like you said, firing the second offense coordinator in 10 months. But there's more to that. There's the offensive line injuries. There's Montez Sweat's injury. Like I said, the Packers coming off a bye week. Grant, when I put that all together, this is my lock of the week. And I'm taking the Packers. I can't see coming off the bye week. It's the perfect time for Jordan Love to get healthy, and for the Packers team which went into its bye week off a bad game against the Lions. I think this is their get right game, and I think they take advantage here. And the Bears are such a mess. I just don't see how they keep this inside of that number. So I'm gonna take the Packers as my lock. A little anticlimactic to get it out of the way, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Packers.
This is definitely, one of those games that see, for me, a lock of the week has to be a hard lock of the week. This kind of feels like a cop out because of how bad the Bears are. And I'm not trying to make you change it. It's just, I'm just pointing.
Okay. But wait a minute. But wait a minute. Why does it matter if it's a cop-out or not? If it's still an obvious win, then I guess it would be a lock, right?
Yeah, I guess. I just, as a Bears fan, I would never lockingly pick the Packers.
Well, okay, that's more of a fandom pride thing.
Listen, let me be fair. I can't stand the Eagles or the Cowboys, but if I find it that it's a favorable one to lock, I never put fandom into making a pick. I cannot do that.
Heck, I picked the Patriots, and I was right against the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay? I just want to point that out. But
I know where Grant's coming at. It pains him that it's the Packers. That's really what it is more than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And plus, with the timing of what's going on with the Bears, I mean, they're talking. I mean, when one of their players comes out and says that they want Tyson Bagent starting instead of
that rumor was debunked. Actually, that
it was okay. I mean, that was out there, and I almost dropped stuff in disbelief.
Well, so
Tyson Bagent starting.
I read that supposedly, and don't quote me on this, I don't know where I actually found it, but supposedly he started his own rumors, apparently from within.
It's his dad. It's his dad.
Well, that's what I'm saying, within like his camp.
Oh, okay.
Which, if that's the case, that's even worse.
See, this is what happens when the team's in total freefall. This is what I'm saying. It's a total collapse right now.
It's a fractured locker room.
It is, and obviously Matt Eberflus is going to pay the price at the end of the year. But Grant, you and I could agree on this. There's no reason why
he should be paying the price right now. He should be paying the price.
He
right
should
now.
not be the coach anymore. And
I
by
don't
the way,
get how even they brought him back this year when you have a new quarterback that you drafted.
because what is that dumb saying? Misery loves company.
Yeah.
I mean that's what the Bears are. Speaking of this game, Johnny, I think we are on the synchronized level because I'm leaning that same way.
I'm not surprised
Because the Packers and the Bears are going two different directions right now. The Packers are finally getting healthy, number one, which is good. Jordan Love finally is getting past the injuries. Josh Jacobs is finally playing good football from the running back position. Finally, it took him a little while, but he's finally playing better. The receiver core is finally playing better. Who was the one that got suspended a couple of weeks ago for conduct detrimental?
Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah, like remember he was fighting with LaFleur during the run through. Like it seems like they finally put that to bed. They're just the better team, and the Bears are in complete free fall, like both of you have said. Eberflus should be gone at the end of the year. I don't care what the explanation is. I don't want to hear any excuses for him to be with this organization anymore. They need fresh blood, new blood, whatever you want to call it. And
I'll tell you what they need. I'm sorry, Nick, but they need full new ownership because that's why
never going to happen.
That's why they're such a dysfunctional organization.
I was going to say also that they need a new head coach. I'm going to say right now, it should not be Ben Johnson. It should not be Ben Johnson because, first of all, and I said this to Grant when we were prepping for his Grant's game day, that Ben Johnson is the boy who cried wolf. Now, do you understand why?
Are you asking me or Johnny?
I'm asking Johnny.
I think so.
Because he keeps saying, "Oh, I'm going to put my name in the hat to be a head coach," and then he pulls it back and says, "I want to be with the Lions."
Yeah,
How many times are you going to say before people think you're lying, and then they're just not going to give you a chance?
It's true, but I mean, he's in such a favorable spot too. I mean, the only way I'd see him leaving is if they give him a fortune.
I'll throw one more at you. Do you really think he wants to be the Raiders head coach?
No.
Not unless they overpay him for him.
So that's my point. That's really like the only job that he would have full control over. I feel like I don't see anywhere else being as a full control spot. So he should stay where he is.
It's crazy. The Bears have 3, 4, 5. They have 6, including this one, 6 divisional games still to play this year.
I just want to throw one more wild thing, and then I'll let you finish, Grant. That
Absolutely.
And don't throw something at me, Johnny, but if the Giants opening was there, would Ben Johnson be a fit?
Can I answer before?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it would be discussed, but I don't know what they would do. I don't know. Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson would work in better situations than the Giants.
All right, go ahead, Grant. What were you going to say?
So my thoughts on this. So here's my problem. So when I reiterated this a while ago, when Dable was hired, he said, "If you hire me, you hire this guy you hire this guy from the Bills organization to be your GM also."
Shane. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, just because Dable took Shane with him,
doesn't mean it's going to work.
I don't think it would work as well, is what I'm saying. And
just because it worked in one place doesn't mean it's going to work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll spend plenty of time on them coming up in a future episode.
Yeah.
But, so we're all taking the Packers. By the way, I will say real quick, Zan, the other Bear fan, did also put this as his bench lock with the Green Bay Packers. So something to watch there. Yeah, so something to watch there. Nick D, by the way, did take the Bears getting 5.5. He thinks the Packers will win, but the Bears cover.
Well,
so
I spoke to Zan, by the way, like as we're talking about Bears and all this stuff. He told me he's done. He said, "I'm stick a fork in the Bears. Done."
Yeah, I mean,
That's what he told me.
Look, I mean, they're winning. They're scheduled the rest of the way. It's over the opponents are
They're
playing over
scheduled-
700. That's
there's
almost
only
200 points
one
more than the
game.
next highest opponent.
There's
I mean,
only
we can
one game I see the Bears possibly winning, and it's the Seahawks.
I was just going to say that's the only one.
And they could lose that too.
They could lose
Yes,
that.
yeah, absolutely. But when you look at their remaining schedule, that is the easiest game left on their
Agreed.
schedule.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, we'll see. We give all the love to the Bears now because this might be the most time you give them in one show for the rest of the season. So that's what we'll go with there. All right, Nick, it's Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins on CBS. The biggest line, not only of the week, but the biggest line of the season in our first fast track game of Week 11. The Jacksonville Jaguars against the 8-1 Detroit Lions. And it's the Lions at Ford Field, a near 2-touchdown home favorite.
Okay, so you already know what I'm going to say about this line already. When you cross the single-digit threshold, it's hard to take a cover on a game. I don't care how big the favorite is. I don't care how dominant the team is. 13.5 is probably the biggest spread we've seen in a couple of years. Probably. I can't remember a spread last time being that big.
Stay tuned. I got. That's another teaser for one of the things I'm going to show you later on.
Interesting. Okay. The Jaguars are terrible. No doubt. The Lions are going to win this game. I can guarantee you that wholeheartedly. Like if I said, and no one's going to take this because the money line is going to make you no money in this game. But if this was strictly like a survivor pick, this is the easiest survivor pick in the history of history. But to tell me that to guarantee a 2-touchdown victory, you can't do that in any NFL game. That's hard. So I have Lions no cover just because asking us to guarantee 2 touchdowns is difficult. So I have Lions no cover.
That's fair. Grant, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, I mean, the Lions will win without a doubt, but they won't cover. This line's too big. But what Nick said about getting to a 2-touchdown lead to win, it has happened before because I mean the 2016 Browns went 0-16, and I'm pretty positive they lost the game by 14 more than once that year. But that
was a very dysfunctional Browns team.
I agree with you. I'm just saying it is possible, but yeah, this line is way too big. But the Lions will win, but they will not cover.
Lion money line I just saw is I think -750.
It basically means that you would have to bet $750 to win 100.
I will say, the Lions proved last week that, great teams find a way to win all kinds of games, and that's what the Lions did last Sunday night, despite Jared Goff's 5 interceptions.
Yep.
I mean, the only bad thing that came out of that game was the fact that Goff probably cost himself a chance at the MVP. But the fact they were down 23-7 looked awful, and they came back and won that game. Again, just shows you great teams find a way to win all sorts of games. He'll correct his wrongs in this game. As far as this one goes, I am taking the Lions minus the 13.5. Jaguars are so bad defensively, and can't you just see right now that Dan Campbell's not going to let his foot off the pedal after last week? If this team could put up 52 points against the Titans, what are they going to do here? And I'll give you one other bet here too. The Lions are going to the total in this game is pretty low for this kind of matchup. I think it's like 47. Nick, can you just double check that?
Yeah, I'm looking
I only
it up.
say that because I think the Lions are going to go over it by themselves. 48-20 Lions win and cover against the Jaguars. And it's one step closer to Doug Peterson getting fired, and another opening, by the way.
He should have been fired already.
I agree. If they weren't in London, I think those London games were the only reason that saved him. Otherwise, and by the way, also no Trevor Lawrence for the second straight game. Mac Jones will be starting for the Jaguars.
And Johnny, on ESPN, the total is 46.5.
Okay,
so the Lions are going to go. The Lions will hit the over by themselves in this one.
DraftKings has it as currently over under 47.
Yeah, again, I'll take the over because the Lions will do that by themselves. 48-20, they won't let their foot off the pedal, and they win and cover against the lowly Jaguars. All right, another fast track game. Let's go to Miami. A Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, Ross Tucker, Tiffany Blackman special on CBS. It is the Las Vegas Raiders, Gardner Minshew and the Raiders heading to Miami to face Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. And the Dolphins are a touchdown favorite. So let's see here real quick. We have a new offensive coordinator for the Raiders. They're coming off of a bye week, and it's a short week for the Dolphins. Advantage Raiders, right? No. Give me the Dolphins minus the 7. They have new life after that win Monday. They'll win and cover this one at Hard Rock Stadium. Nick?
Yeah, same track. I mean, the Raiders are just a dysfunctional mess in every way, shape, or form. Antonio Pierce is going to get fired. Unfortunately, it's not going to be his fault. He just walked into a terrible situation being part of the organization. Tom Brady is now a distraction in the ownership box. Dealing with that whole situation and the broadcast and everything that's going on. What can he say? What can he not say? Is he not allowed to rip the coaches? Can he rip the coaches? Big mess. I think the Dolphins win by 10 plus.
Grant?
Yeah, you know what? I considered others for this, but I'm gonna actually make the Dolphins win and cover, and this is my lock of the week.
So there we go. And you won't be the only one, Grant, because Tom and Ben Cruz also made the Dolphins their lock of the week as well down there at Hard Rock Stadium. And just to let everybody know, if you're just tuning in for the very first time, the Dolphins have to win by more than 7 points for that lock to be successful. You cannot tie in a lock.
Well, you have to win and cover both sides to win the
both
lock.
sides. But a push does not count.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And that would be our luck this year, that the Dolphins win this game like 21-14. And so those locks then would not happen. And that happened, and I know that happened with us once last year, that somebody did put a bench lock on a team that tied the spread. And when it comes to bench locks, you cannot tie, you cannot push.
So you have to win your point spread, whether it's cover or no cover, and the result that you pick is right.
Right. So, but I think this is pretty much a clean sweep across the board there for the Miami Dolphins. Grant, we've got Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink on Fox. Yet another fast track game as we head up to Foxborough. Matt Stafford and the Rams, a 4.5-point favorite against Drake May and the New England Patriots.
I mean, this is another game that's kind of another easy one to choose. I mean, the Rams are going to win and cover this. I mean, you know, you got a first-year head coach, you got a rookie quarterback who is playing considerably well. I will say that, but the Patriots just don't have enough offensive firepower to keep up with the Rams. So I'm going to take the Rams to win and cover.
So just like in the prior game, we've got the Rams now coming cross country on a short week. Had a bad loss, and let's be honest, that was a bad loss to the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins played well, and you give them credit. You know, the defense was great, but you know, for a team that now, for the Rams though, who have to deal with not only the Niners but also the Cardinals in that NFC West, it's not a good game for them Monday night. And now they got to go cross country on a short week. It's a different situation for them than what the Dolphins are dealing with on Sunday. And the Rams were uneven on offense. They did not have a lot of speed. And I'm looking at this Patriots team, and they seem to be growing each week offensively with Drake May. I mean, look at how they did against your Bears last week. I might be taking something out of that. I like the Patriots to keep this game inside the number. I think it's going to be close. I like the Rams to win, but I'm taking the Patriots to cover the spread because I think they've got something going right now. And I don't know if I'm looking at the fact that their last two games were against the Titans and the Bears, but the Pats were so bad beforehand that they were showing like that against everybody. So I think they've got a little momentum, and the short week for the Rams might be a problem in this one. So I will take the Patriots getting the 4.5 there at Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. But I still think the Rams will win, but it's going to be pretty close. And what about you, Nick?
Yeah, this is a tough one. When I originally looked at this game, I said, oh, the Rams should pummel the Patriots the way that they were built. But Drake May is actually playing good football, which is what's surprising me because obviously Brissett started the year. He got knocked out quite literally. And now May's had the chance. I mean, didn't he have a concussion already or a concussion protocol already once? Drake May already this year?
Yes,
he did. A couple weeks ago he did, yeah. Because
his offensive line almost gets him killed every week. And that's a problem. The Rams are playing better now that Cooper Kupp is finally back and healthy. Especially my fantasy team thanks him for being back. Kyron Williams has looked really good from the running back position. You have to put him up there as one of the more improved running backs in football this year. He's looked really good. Just looking at the offense, I just think even on a short week, they still have more offensive weapons than the Patriots. And I think that's what's going to pull them through. I think the Patriots are going to run out of gas at some point, and I just think this is not a good matchup for them. I think they're going to get run all over. I think they're going to get passed all over. And I think there's going to be even pressure defensively because the Rams have actually been playing good defense as of late, too. So I'm going to take the Rams to cover.
That's all fair there in New England. All right, another fast track game. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Jen Hale special on Fox. It's the Jameis Winston revenge game as Winston and the Browns face Derek Carr and the Saints. Now, depending on what book you use, this line is all over the place. The one that we use, DraftKings, has the Browns as a 1-point favorite. But depending on your book, if you look at me on Montspot on Y, the book that I use for my picks actually has the Saints as a 1.5-point favorites. And then there are books that actually have this game as a true pick-em. That's pretty much what it is here. So the Browns are a 1-point favorite. So let's see here. So the Browns got a boost in Jameis Winston's first start. And then in his second start, he laid a dud. Darren Rizzi, the interim coach of the Saints, his first game as an interim coach, he got a boost. But to me, his second game has the makings of a dud. Because if you look at Winston, he sliced up a bad defense in his first start. He unraveled against a good defense in his second. And the Saints are a bad defense. And if you look at their game real quick last week against the Falcons, they benefited from 2 missed field goals and a blocked kick. And I also think that bye week helps Kevin Stefanski's squad. I'm taking the Browns there at the Superdome.
Wow.
Nick?
I don't like this game at all. Like, I would just tell everybody, don't bet it. Like, it's just one of those. I would file this under the degenerate gambler when, like, they got fed up with a bunch of games and said, all right, I need to try to make my money back. I'll throw it on this game. The Saints, you've been on the record with this before, winning their first 2 games and then losing their last 8 or whatever?
8 before last week.
So, like, the Saints are a dumpster, too. Like, Derek Carr has been a complete dumpster fire, the quarterback position. And then who did they have stepping in when he got hurt?
Oh, Spencer Rattler.
Who's been rough. Like,
he was so inconsistent in college, and that's really what he's going to be in the pros. But I mean, it was nice to see him get some starts. Unfortunately, at the expense of the injury to Carr. But yeah.
I just think both of these teams are god awful, like just really, really bad. I'm glad Deshaun Watson's not the starter anymore. I'm just going to keep saying that because I don't like him. Usually, I would pick the Saints because I would think they'd have more offensive weapons, but I'm leaning on the Browns. No particular reason. It's a pick'em game. I think Jameis Winston can outthrow Derek Carr. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's the only reason. But it's going to be a pick fest, I think. And that's why it's back and forth on the spread. But I guess I'm taking the Browns to cover.
Grant.
I mean, this is just a hard choice for me because I mean I will always remember Jameis Winston as the 30 for 30 quarterback, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, and then
a true 30 for 30.
Yeah, and then the Saints. I mean, you have pieces on your offense and your defense, but you also don't have your long-term answer at head coach. So, how motivating can an intern head coach be? But the line is just so terrible for this game. Like, I mean,
it's a pick'em.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean by terrible. It's like it doesn't matter which one you pick, really.
You're basically picking a team to win at this point.
I'm gonna take the Saints. I don't know why. It's just the Browns just have been really bad. So I'm just gonna take the Saints.
This is basically the throw a dart at the wall game and hope that it wins.
6. Yeah.
By the way, I'll give you one prediction from one of our guys this week that might be a little shocking.
I see it already.
Yep. Nick D's bench lock is in this game, and it's with the Saints.
What?
Oh, something to watch there. So we do have to. There is a reason to watch this game because we do have a bench lock on the line here with the New Orleans.
If I told you, by the way, that the over/under was 44, what would you say?
Oh, see, it's so tough because the Saints are lacking so much. I mean, the one player that actually stuck out offensively last week was Marcus Valdes-Scantling. He had over 100 yards receiving. You know, obviously Alvin Kamara is another one, but I would have to trend towards the under, Nick. But I mean, I'm not sure.
You know what's sad about this game? The Michael Thomas has more game off the field than the Saints have on the field.
I do feel bad for Kenny, John, and Jen that but somebody's got to do this game. But they'll make it a game, and it's good to see Jen Hale working with Kenny and John this week down there in New Orleans. All right, let's go from that one to one of the better games of the week, Nick. And it's only fair I go to you first in this one because it's your crew. An Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn special on CBS. A big AFC North showdown here with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers in an Aquashore Stadium. It's the Ravens laying 3.5.
Now, originally when I looked at this game, because the Ravens big favorite all year, I would have said Ravens no issue. I would have said this would have been a runaway game because Lamar Jackson is playing great. He's an MVP candidate again this year. Derrick Henry, my God, the resurgence of the century. It feels like this guy, every time you put the ball in his hand, he's off for 40, 50 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. I mean, like, this guy is incredible. But you can't discount the Steelers either. Their defense has been great. Russell Wilson finally not talking about Mr. Unlimited anymore. He's actually throwing touchdowns. The game is finally there. They beat Washington last week, which was, I thought, a true litmus test to beat Jaden Daniels, who was on fire going into that game. But this is going to be a close game, the whole game. I think it's going to be like Tyson and Jake Paul. You're going to see punches and kicks and everything. Yes, I made that reference on purpose. But my point is, like, this is going to be a punch out, or if you want to go one step further, Mike Tyson punch out. So yeah, so I'm taking the Ravens. I think they're going to cover by like the 4-point spread or the 4 or 5-point spread, but it's going to be close. I think this comes down to the very end, like field goal kicks possible.
Grant?
You know what? I agree with everything that Nick just said. I am going to take the Ravens to cover, but this is going to be a lot closer than people think because, you know, I mean, if you wanted me to say if I feel like this would be a more fair matchup if it was like Lamar Jackson now against Russell Wilson in his prime, like when he won the Super Bowl, maybe.
That would almost be like an incredible matchup if it was Russell Wilson in his prime.
Yeah, like I feel like that game would be a lot closer, like maybe like 1 point difference if it was prime Lamar against prime Russell Wilson, because they are very similar in play styles. They can both throw the ball, but they can also take off with their feet.
Okay, so you have what? So are you taking them to cover?
I'm gonna take them to cover and win, like you. But
okay.
So I agree with you guys 99% of the way, except I'm going the other way here. I'm taking the Steelers, especially now that they're getting an extra half a point, which makes me feel even more comfortable in taking the Steelers in this game because there's no question Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are putting up award-winning numbers week after week, and they have to because this Raven defense is not good. I mean, it has had issues for a long time now.
Aren't they last in receiving defense, if I'm not mistaken?
I think they're right up there. I mean, they give up a lot of big plays.
They can't stop the pass.
No, they cannot. And I can see Russell Wilson having a good game. Now, there's one concern that I do have with the Steelers on Sunday, and that is the injury to Alex Highsmith. We saw that last week. I mean, he was the one that was really able to stop Jaden Daniels, and I think that's going to be a big deal. But I still trust, though, the Steeler defense, despite Highsmith being out, to slow down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry just enough. Plus, I've always said this: doubt Mike Tomlin at your own risk. You know, I've said that a lot. I said that last week when I picked the Steelers, and I'm going to that here. I feel like this might even come down to a Chris Boswell field goal, or now that I'm getting an extra half a point, it could be tied up at, let's say, 24, and Justin Tucker kicks a field goal to win it for the Ravens. And you know what? If that's the case, I get a win that way too. I'm going to take the Steelers getting the 3.5 here at Aquashore Stadium. Grant, it's Spiro, Adam, and Aditi on CBS. It's another fast track game as well. Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, a 6-point favorite, heading to Nissan Stadium, taking on the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis.
So, I mean, didn't the Vikings have like a kind of like a
clunker
wake-up call game yet last week?
Yeah, they had a clunker against the worst defense in the Jaguars.
So Sam Darnold is bound for a comeback game, and honestly, this might be one of the best teams to do it against, because the Vikings the Titans, aren't a very good football team right now. They're 3-8 or 3-7?
Yeah.
7.
So yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings to win and cover here.
So just off last week, real quick, Grant. Last week was the first time in NFL history that a team committed 3 or more turnovers, scored 0 touchdowns, and won.
Holy cow!
It was literally. What's that?
Were they all field goals?
All field goals?
Yeah, it was 4 field goals for the Vikings last week. That's how they won 12-7 and cost 6 of us our bench locks last week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was actually like, how many instances was? Let me just look at it real quick here. Yeah, 147. It was the 148th time in the first that a team committed 3 or more turnovers and scored 0 or more touchdowns in a game, and the first time that somebody won that game. Now, Grant, you were talking about the fact that this is a more favorable matchup for the Vikings against the Titans.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. The Titans' defense plays very similar to the Jaguars. And what I mean by that is they play with more too high safety coverage than any team. That's what the Jaguars did. And the Titans have one of the highest too high safety rates in the NFL. Now, the weird thing with the Titans in saying all that is, so they've allowed the fewest yards in the league, but they also allow a lot of points, and they don't take away the ball that many times. And I do have concerns now with Sam Darnold's playmaking, his decision-making these last couple of games. He's got 6 turnover-worthy plays in the last 2 games. He's got 5 interceptions over that span. He's got 4 of those in the red zone. And if you think about it, the Titans' defense is better than the Jaguars. So I'm taking the Titans getting the 6 points here. I still think the Vikings win, but I don't think they win this game by a touchdown. I think Sam Darnold will play a little bit better, but there's concerns with him. The Titan defense is always at least going to keep him around. I don't expect them to score much, but I'd like them to cover this number, even if they backdoor it for me. So once again, I'm going the other way here. I think the Vikings win, but I like the Titans getting the 6 points. And what about you, Nick?
Yeah, so that was a very unlike Vikings game this whole year. They flopped against the worst defense in the National Football League this year, which I was kind of surprised. But Nick D and I were talking about this, saying like this was bound to happen with Sam Darnold. We've experienced the history of being a Jet fan and seeing what goes on with Sam Darnold. So he was bound to have a clunker at some point. I just didn't expect it to be against the Jaguars. Let's not forget, we're talking about Will Levis on the other side of the football, who got way overdrafted and is now a joke in my book, if you ask me. I don't think he's going to develop into anything. And the Titans are going to have to go back to the drawing board at their quarterback position. I like Mason Rudolph. I kind of hope they give him a shot to be the starter because he actually has done some good things, whether it's running the football or getting the football in the air. I think this is a get-right game for the Vikings. First of all, Justin Jefferson was not throwing the football as much in last game. And when they don't throw the football, they don't win. They need him involved in the offense. Otherwise, they're just not going to compete in any of the games that they're in at all. So I think that changes. I think Darnold gets JJ more into the game. And I think they destroy the Titans. Not by a blowout, but I think this will be like a 10 to 12 point game. And I think they make good on that loss. So I'm taking the Vikings to cover.
Yeah, and hopefully Jefferson does get more involved because Jordan Addison really has not had a good year at all for the Vikings. So they need JJ to get more involved. And because of that, I think they could double team Jefferson a little bit more and force Darnold to some throws. And also remember, second straight road game for the Vikings here. I mean, they just came off of playing down in Jacksonville. Now they go back home, prepare, and now back on the road against the Titans. So it's something to watch here.
Who did they just get back from injury also? Because they just got – it was a Rudolph, was it? No.
Who? I'll look that up. There was somebody that was activated for the
because they got injured at the second half of the season. They lost the player for the year, but
T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end. Yes, he was. I thought he was originally activated, but they gave him one more week to prepare. So,
but it was just huge having him back, like in the team locker room. I feel like he was a big presence.
Yeah, no, and then we remember that trade last year in division. Yeah, I think he might be back. I'll look it up here while we move on. All right, well, speaking of moving on, Nick, let's go to your game. It's Andrew Catalon, Tiki Barber, Jason McCourty, and AJ Ross on CBS. It is not Joe Flacco. It is Anthony Richardson back under center for the Colts against Aaron Rodgers and your Jets at MetLife Stadium, and it's the Jets a 4-point favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a fast track, but, I mean, it's your team, so you can have the floor here.
Well, you know how you said to me last week, I don't give credit to teams and I don't whatever in the Jet game when we pick the Jets in the Giants game. Yeah. Cardinals deserve 1,000% credit for the way they played last week.
That's fair.
Totally. Like they completely owned the Jets. Their defense looked slow on every play. I knew they were going to struggle against Kyler because Kyler can move out of the pocket. The Jets are very blitz heavy. They want to stay home. They want to be aggressive. And Kyler can move out of the pocket and sense blitzes when they come. This was a terrible matchup for the Jets. He had everybody involved in the offense. And forget it. Aaron Rodgers looked awful. Like this was the worst, I would say the worst game of the year for Aaron Rodgers. Like they could not get the ball out. And this whole thing with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams has been a colossal failure so far. Colossal. I dare somebody to tell me that this has worked out so far since the trade. They're not on the same page. They can't. I love how they said, oh, when he comes in, the two of them are going to be eye to eye, and it's going to be like they never left Green Bay. Has not worked since they've come in. So this is not going to be a shocker, but I'm taking the Colts to win outright.
Outright? Yeah. Not even the 4 points.
Because what the Jets losing to the Cardinals, the game against the Texans really was an outlier because they lost to Arizona. But Arizona's a good team. I've admitted finally that Arizona is a good team, and they might make a run to the playoffs and give somebody a hard time in the first couple rounds. But I think Anthony Richardson actually helps the Colts in this scenario. Joe Flacco's been great, but how many times can you go back to the fountain of youth, and I mean that jokingly, in Joe Flacco, and expect to win? They need to put Anthony Richardson back out there. You're hurting his development by sitting him on the bench. So put him out there. I think he's going to have a good game. The Jets defense has been awful. You know who's been really bad? Sauce Gardner has been awful. Oh my gosh. He's had one of the most historically bad seasons since he's entered the NFL. He can't tackle. He's committing penalties, really bad penalties. They're going to lose this one. I just know they're going to lose this one. They're 2-8 right now. I think the Jets and the Giants are both 2-8 right now.
No, Jets are 3-7.
Were they 3-7? I'm losing track.
A win in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, that's right. And Texans.
The Texans and also the Patriots on that Thursday night game earlier in the season.
To be honest, it feels like both teams should be 2-8. But my point is,
what's the difference, right?
It's really not. They're both going to be in the top 5 in picks probably this year.
Gosh,
which no one expected. By the way, I don't know about the Giants. Because you would know better than me, but no one expected the Jets.
No, there was a better opportunity. There was a better chance that my Giants were going to be 2-8, but I didn't think they were going to be this bad.
I mean, it was so bad at MetLife. They're doing the bags over their head at MetLife Stadium.
Which one? Yes.
But,
it's like which team? Yes.
No, you're right. I forgot. You're right.
No, it's awful.
But cut Aaron Rodgers. I'm saying that right now. I want nothing to take the dead money. I'm saying take the dead money. That's how desperate I am to get out from under him. Start somebody else. Please. I'm begging the New York Jets ownership to start somebody else. I don't care who it is. Go get a former quarterback out of the XFL. I don't care. Just get somebody. Please. I'm begging. Aaron Rodgers' career is over. It's dead. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm not taking that away from him. Let me be very clear about that. He won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. No one's taking that away from him. But he should go off into the ayahuasca sunset in the darkness and leave everybody alone. There's my piece. I said
it. Save that clip, by the way. I think that might be coming up on social media this weekend. I'm just saying. Oh, I don't know how we follow it up. All right, Grant, try and follow it up. What do you have here?
Well, as mad as Nick is about being the Aaron Rodgers ran Jets, I have definitely endured your pain being a Chicago Bears fan and having to endure all the losses that he has portrayed to the Bears the last 10 or 20 years. But the dude is 50. Oh my God. I almost said 50, 40 years old. I agree with you. He should retire. Now, he did say that he wants to play next year. I don't know if that's going to be for the Jets or anyone else. But I will take the Colts to win and cover because I do not like Aaron Rodgers. I wish I could say another word, but I will keep it PG on this show. So I am.
You can say whatever you want. There's no FCC
don't hold
here.
Back, Grant. No, it's
fuck Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, yeah. How do I follow that up? I'll tell you how I follow it up.
You can't.
What's that?
You can't follow.
No, I can't follow that up. I'll be honest with you. Again, I struggled with this game. Because the Jets laying 4 points is very telling to me.
This feels like a trap.
That what they're begging you to take the Colts, right?
Well, no, I'm saying I think they're trapping you to take the Jets to cover. I feel like they're saying, "Oh, we'll make it small so you can pick the Jets."
It's big. Honestly, they're laying more than a field goal when you have two horrible teams playing.
But you have to remember they're the home team.
That's why, but still,
are they saying because of the quarterback change? Maybe.
I'm wondering where this line opened because remember, Flacco was originally scheduled to start this game. Of course, I did moving the goalpost with Nick D, and we were talking about the fact that it was going to be the ageless wonder game between Flacco and Rodgers, and then a day or two later, Shane Steichen comes out and says that not only Anthony Richardson's going to start, he's starting for the rest of the season after originally saying that Flacco was going to start the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you another take here. He should be fired too. He should be fired. He's not been a great coach. Pick a quarterback and stick with it. You drafted. How high was Anthony Richardson drafted?
Richardson was the 4th overall pick 2 years ago.
Okay, no excuses. Put Flacco on the bench. Save him in case Richardson gets hurt. But you got to let him play.
Well, do you think maybe though instead of and this could have been a mistake on Steichen's part, that it was not really a permanent benching, but more of a punishment for basically saying that he was tired during that game.
Well, it was a mistake for Anthony Richardson to make that statement.
I'm not defending him. I'm just saying from Steichen's point.
But I think that could have been handled more in-house than making it a public punishment. Yeah. I feel like they could have just said, "Hey, we'll deal with that in-house. Don't say it again. And let's just move on to the next game." But I think that was impeding progress a little bit by benching him like that.
That's fair. Yeah, see why one of the many reasons why I struggle is what unit do I trust in this game? Do I maybe Jonathan Taylor and maybe Richardson doing a dual threat against the Jets' 25th ranked run defense? Or do I take the Jet offense against this Colt pass defense?
Tough one.
I don't know. See, because Richardson, his completion percentage is so poor, but you could also see him throwing an 80-yard pass in this game. Remember 2 weeks before he got benched, he had a moment where he threw a 69-yard touchdown catch, and then the rest of the game, at one point he was 1 of 14 for 12 yards.
Can I give you another recipe of disaster for the Jet defense? Yeah. Anthony Richardson is a mobile quarterback that can escape the pocket.
That's what the dual threat. That's what you have to be concerned about. And then also, Jonathan Taylor can definitely break one off. I'll tell you what, I'm going to kick myself for this pick. I'm taking the Jets. I'm taking them to win and cover. I'm taking them to win and cover. And it's risky getting more than a field goal when you have two bad teams, but I
admire the guts on that.
The Colts. No, I don't trust either one of them.
No, but I'm saying I admire the guts.
This is a stay-away game. This is a stay-away game.
You and I agree on this one.
Right? I mean, honestly, if there was – there we go. Yeah, I will take the money. Maybe a feature that we have to use next year is a stay-away. No, we can't do that. That'd be too boring and too childish and too scaredy-cattish. By the way, so yeah, I am going to take the Jets to win and cover, but – maybe making me feel a little bit better in this game is that Tom, Zan, Ben, and Anthony also took the Jets to win and cover. And
God, I just realized that.
And Nick D, though, is taking the Colts to cover the 4, but he just think the Jets win, too.
Wow. Wait a minute. That's like the second time in a row. I think I'm the only one who really took it outright.
No, you and Grant both took the Colts to win.
Oh, did we both take the Colts? Oh, okay.
You're not the lone wolf for...
Damn.
No, at least not in this game.
I tried.
I will say this. I think there's going to be a lone wolf, though, later on. Again,
okay.
Another teaser. And maybe it's this game as we go into the late window, guys. It is, in fact, a Kevin Kugler, Darrow Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman special on Fox. And one of the more intriguing games of the week over at Empower Field at Mile High. Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons and Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos a 2-point favorite. So we look at the Broncos here. So they're a top 5 defense, and they held Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to 1 touchdown last week. Now, the joke with Kirk Cousins, Nick, has always been about the time of the day that he's been quarterbacking. Well, he's answered that call in 2024. But now this year it's been about the defenses he's faced. Because against bottom 5 defenses, he has 12 touchdowns and 1 interception. But against top 27 defenses, a.k.a. everybody else, he has 5 TD passes and 7 interceptions.
Oof.
And the Broncos can definitely crank up the heat. No team blitzes at a higher rate against Cousins, who's not mobile to begin with. And the Falcons have the lowest pressure rate and fewest sacks of anybody in the league on defense. Oof. So with the way that Bo Nix has been playing and with some of the concerns that I have with the Falcons, I think this matchup actually really favors Bo Nix a lot. I am taking the Broncos minus the 2 to win and cover there in Denver. And what about you, Nick?
Actually, I would put this on a list of games I don't 100% like. Because, again, pick'em game. I don't know what the Broncos' record has been at home, but I wouldn't say it's perfect by any means. The Falcons have actually gone on the road and won some pretty impressive games on the road, too. I don't know. Kirk Cousins will always scare me, regardless of whatever situation he is, and he keeps getting $100 million contracts, why do we keep paying this man? I don't understand. This guy does not win playoff games. He's not a Super Bowl champ. I don't know why we keep paying this man. I just don't get it. And I've come around on Bo Nix a little bit. It took me some time. I'm not the biggest fan of Bo Nix, but I have to give him some credit because he's played better football as of late. I don't like this game. I think it's going to be very close. I could see this being like an ugly, like, fumble with wins the game type of game. So I'm taking the Broncos. I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm taking the Broncos and Bo Nix to beat the Falcons.
Oh, nice. And Graham.
So for me, I read on Twitter somewhere like a couple days, I think yesterday, it said that the Falcons are considering benching Kirk Cousins because of injury problems. So
I did read that too.
They might be with Michael Penix this weekend, and let's just be real. The dude already has 2 replaced ACL injuries, so I mean, if he gets one more injury to that ACL, or his
career might be over before it starts.
Yeah, his career could be over before it starts. And honestly, I said this back when we did the draft show. That was the worst pick of the first round. It did not make any sense. So I'm taking the Broncos to win and cover easy.
All right, so we're all taking the Broncos while everybody else is taking the Falcons in this one. So we're split across the board there at Empower Field at Mile High. Grant, it's a Joe Davis, Greg Olsen, Pam Oliver special on Fox. And out in the NFC West, it's Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks taking on Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers at Levi Stadium, and the Niners a 6.5-point favorite.
See, the Seahawks do get a little bit of a boost getting DK Metcalf back this week. But the 49ers are just, their whole team is a powerhouse. Their whole coaching staff is a powerhouse. So, I mean, and the Seahawks have a rookie head coach in Mike McDaniel. That's right? Not
Mike McDonald.
McDonald.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. 2 head coaches literally have almost identical last names. I'm always going to say one rather than the other and get it wrong. But I'm going to take the 49ers to win and cover.
Yeah, so the Seahawks return off their bye week, but pretty much in must-win mode, especially now when we see the other 3 teams out of the NFC West and how they're playing. But the Niners, while they come off their bye, the Niners are getting healthier and better, and we all know how the Niners are the best team in the second half since 2021, and pretty much they own the Seahawks. And I don't think this is going to be any different here on Sunday. And I know divisional games can get weird, but you're talking about a Seahawks defense that at best is so-so. And let's be honest, the Niners should have covered last week. I mean, if it wasn't for Moody missing multiple field goals, which, again, another loss for me there, thanks to the special teams. But I think another week under Christian McCaffrey's belt helps him. He's back at a home game for the first time this season. I see the 49ers winning this by at least a touchdown. So give me the money. I will take the money with the Niners, Nick.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. With McCaffrey being back, he doesn't have to be perfect. But teams now have to game plan for a guy that was potential MVP last year and Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, this guy makes the offense. It opens it up for guys like Debo and Kittle and opens up the pass game and the run game. The Seahawks are kind of blah. Like, they're not great, but they're not awful. They're like that in-between team, like neutral team. So I think with McCaffrey back, he's only going to get better with more reps out there. So I just think if the Niners don't cover this, I think that's an actual upset. So Niners cover.
Well, Anthony's hoping they will because he's the only one that's given the Seahawks a chance to at least cover the spread, but everybody else is taking the Niners minus the 6.5. And I just think the Seahawks are. I mean, if you look at the Seahawks, I think are in real trouble because three teams in that division right now. The other three teams all playing great and all legitimate playoff contenders. And then also you look at the Seahawks schedule. They still got to play Arizona twice. They've got the Jets sandwiched in between there. They got the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Rams. So, I mean, I think the Seahawks are in real trouble here. There was a stretch from about 3 or 4 weeks in that the quarterbacks that they were playing the rest of the way was almost not like murderer's row, but it was a dangerous group to be playing against. And with a so-so defense with the way it's playing, I think they're in real trouble in that division for sure. All right, Nick. Not only the game of the week, but pretty much the game of the year here.
That's what it's being billed as.
Oh, it sure is. I mean, CBS is going to have the NFL Today there for this game. And, of course, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson will be there on CBS. The 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes against Josh Allen and the 8-2 Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, a 2-point favorite at Orchard Park on Sunday.
So we talked about this right off the top. Obviously, they haven't covered. I don't think they've covered a game this year, have they? In the spread,
I know they've covered at least one. I would have to,
but they're like 1-8 or something this year against the spread. Like, it's an unbelievable number for an undefeated team that they just have not covered games.
I mean, when your average margin of victory is less than a touchdown, and you're
plus 58 overall.
Yeah, so that's just in 9 games. That's under a touchdown. I mean, and when you're the Chiefs, you're going to be favored by more often than not. You're going to be favored by a pretty decent number in a lot of these games. So that would be why. I know the game against the Saints when they were home on a Monday night, they did. But I don't think they've covered since then. I would have to look at this. Let me look real quick while you.
I think you're right. I don't know. This spread seems like a little bit of an insult to the Chiefs, a little bit, who are 9-0, and you're telling me that the Bills are the favorite. I know it's a road game for the Chiefs. It's in Buffalo, one of the toughest places to play. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. I'm sure it's going to be cold. Obviously, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, everyone bills that matchup to be one of the best. I think the only other interesting matchup would be Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, at least in my book. I think that's the most intriguing matchup in the NFL. I would say Mahomes and Josh Allen is right behind it. I just think Mahomes comes to play against the Bills. Like, he has the magic, the clutchness against the Bills. I think this spread is wrong, unbelievably wrong. By the way, I think the Chiefs are going to win outright because the Chiefs just find ways to win. And I wouldn't say the Bills are perfect by any means either. They still have some defensive issues that they got to work through. I like James Cook, by the way, on the offensive side. James Cook has been really good for them this year, and that might be the way to keep them in front. Just give them the football and let them run, because their receiver room has been a little bit of a mess as of late. So I think you put the ball in James Cook's hand and just let him run and let him put points up. But I just think that's going to be tough because the Chiefs' defense is, top 2, top 3 in the NFL. The defense is winning the more games than the offense was in the 2 Super Bowls that they won. Patrick Mahomes does not look great. Let's just be honest about that. He's had some really tough games. He's had multiple pick games a bunch. So I think the Chiefs' defense is going to win this and beat the Bills. So Chiefs outright, right here.
So I believe the Chiefs have covered 3 games this year.
That's still shocking.
They've covered 3. They've pushed 1, and obviously they've lost the other ones. But nevertheless, you know what? A win is a win for them, and that's what ultimately counts here in the NFL. Grant, let's go to you.
Yeah, I mean, the spread's too small, first of all. And the Chiefs are going to win this. I'm going to take them to win and cover. But, like, seriously, like, every time the Chiefs and Bills have played each other, Patrick Mahomes always wins, right?
It's magic. Mahomes magic.
He's never lost against the Bills, right?
That's not true.
No, he has lost a few games.
Not in the playoffs, but in the regular season he has.
But
Oh wow.
I just think he has the magic against the Bills. That's just
Right.
his MO.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win a cover. I thought that Mahomes was undefeated against the Bills, but I was wrong on that. My bad.
That's
but,
okay.
Yeah, Chiefs win a cover.
You know what, Grant? To be fair, he's undefeated against the Bills in the most important game in the playoffs. That's
all that matters, right?
What's that?
Actually, it's all that matters.
Yeah, it is.
So Mahomes is 4-3 in the regular season against the Bills.
Yeah, and I think he's lost 2 straight because this is the 3rd straight year they've played, and the Bills have won the last 2. Is that correct? In the regular season?
I think you're right on that one.
And it's we've spoken about this a lot in the NFL. Timing is everything when it comes to these games, and that's why this game was in the playoffs. I think you guys are right. I think the fact that this game is now, when you look at the way these 2 teams are set up right now, and that's all we could talk about here in the middle of November, I think that's what we have to base this pick on. And it's very easy to say, it's very easy to take the Bills because you could say, oh, the Chiefs are due for a loss, but because at the same time, you could say, well, the Chiefs are due for a huge win. So I'm not going to make this pick based on that, but I'm looking very carefully into this matchup, and there is definitely one big Achilles heel with the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is their left tackle. And I think the Bills can definitely exploit that with 2 of their players on defense, especially Von Miller. So I'm looking at all of that. I'll give you a couple of other nuggets here real quick. So this game has the best combined record heading into a Week 11 game since 2018 when it was the 9-1 Chiefs and the 9-1 Rams. Do you remember that game?
That was the
Monday night game that ended up 54-51.
Yes.
Back in 2018, which was one of the best games I had ever watched. So we have that. This is also going to be just the 5th time since the 1970 merger featuring 2 teams with 8+ wins prior to Week 11. By the way, the home team won those first 4 matchups, and the home team's going to win this 5th one too. I am taking the Bills to win and cover here minus the 2. I think that match, and I think this is a timing thing too. Now, these 2 teams meet in 2 months. It could be a whole other story because, like you said, the Mahomes magic there. But I have a feeling here that the Bills are going to take off and exploit that weakness. And, yeah, there is only so much that the Chiefs can do here. Remember, last week, they got bailed out because of a blocked field goal. I mean, the Broncos, you could have made the case, were the better team in that one last week and probably should have won. But that special teams play at the very end was the difference. But I just got this feeling. I think it's going to be an epic one, though, up there in Buffalo. This is definitely – there's a reason why this game's been hyped up all week and all year. This is the game of the year right here. And I think the Bills do just enough to win this one.
And by the way, that's I think you're lone wolfing right there too.
Let's see. Am I lone wolfing?
Yeah, you are.
I am. I'm gonna take the road less traveled, and I will proudly do it. Give me the Bills minus the 2 there at Orchard Park.
Oh, by the way, we did leave out one thing. Butker's on the IR.
Yes, Harris, and that could be another thing too.
Because they signed. Can I tell you who they signed? They signed the Jets kicker off the practice squad to be their kicker.
And maybe that plays a big factor too, right?
I totally didn't even. And I'm saying that myself, and I totally didn't factor that. I'm sticking with it. But
okay, I mean that could be something too because Harrison Butker is one of the best field goal and most clutch kickers in the world, and as easily as Patrick Mahomes can get down the field, like we saw in that playoff game a couple of years ago against the Bills, ultimately you need a great kicker to help too, and. It is a downfall. Yeah, it looks like Butker's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks.
They're talking about maybe lost.
Surgery.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think they're not saying it's a season ender. They think he'll be back in time for the playoffs, even back in time for the end of the regular season here. But the only reason why that might factor in is if you are playing for the number 1 seed in the AFC, which the Chiefs do this, then they'll be on their way. And the other thing too is if the Bills win this. And everything else falls away with the AFC East. I mean, the Bills could be clinching this AFC East in a playoff spot awfully quick. I mean, Tom might have to come out and do a voiceover and give the playoff scenarios earlier this year because, they're talking about them having like a 5 or 6 game lead in the AFC East.
I told you I thought it was over already.
They would have had a 5 or 6 game lead if the Dolphins lost Monday night.
You know what's scary? People were putting like the Jets and the Dolphins ahead of the Bills. If you remember, in some of the instead of the preview scenarios at the beginning of the year.
That is what I mean. What the Bills have done this year with how much they've lost. I mean, they have not. I mean, they've lost Stephon Diggs, and they have not missed a beat.
Also, didn't they lose Milano also at the beginning of the?
Well, he's been hurt. I think Matt Milano.
Yeah, that was a big loss for them defensively.
Yeah, and he might. And I think is he back or is he coming back? He's trending towards coming back.
He's almost back.
Yeah,
but
it's scary. It really is. I didn't think
I would not even gamble on this game, to be quite honest with you, because I just think it's going to be too close.
What's the total?
It was 46. Over under 46.
Oh, that's right in the middle. Oh man,
I wouldn't touch the over under in this game, to be honest.
No, that's true. That there's no real props I can even think of, like player props I could even think about in this game either. It's a tough one. That's what I'm saying. This some of these games this week, as great as they
matchups are good. This was a good week.
Absolutely. And you know what? We've got more where that came from because we've got this game that was flexed in the Sunday Night Football. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals and Justin Herbert and the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. And it's the Chargers, a 1.5 favorite. I struggled with this game too, guys. When I look at this, I mean, because the Chargers might be the most underrated team in the NFL because if you look at them, there's very quietly they are 6-3 and have allowed the fewest points of any team this season. And I think one of the reasons why is Jim Harbaugh. I mean, let's be honest, because he has also not asked Justin Herbert to do much this year, and it's worked. Now I know Herbert was hurt; he was dealing with that ankle issue at the beginning of the year, but he hasn't had to do much. And I mean, he can do much. I mean, he had a great game against the Titans last week, but he hasn't had to. I think though this is the game where I think he's going to have to do a little something more because I actually think this is going to be a little bit on the higher scoring side. This is actually where I would trend towards the over, more than I probably would take the spread because this is going to be the best offensive team that Herbert and the Chargers have had to face to date until they play the Ravens next week. Now, Joe Burrow, we know he can score on anybody. So that's not the issue, like it's been a lot of the case with the Bengals this year. But what will come down to is Justin Herbert against the Bengals defense. And that, to me, is advantage Chargers. I think this game is going to get loose. It's going to be a bit of a higher scoring game. But I think the Bengals are going to be on the short end of another close game against a big-time opponent here. I am taking the Chargers over the Bengals on Sunday night. Now, Nick, you would pick the Bengals in 2 straight games, I want to say.
Yeah, and I think I was 50-50, I think. Because they were on their bye last week. Oh, no. They played last Thursday night. I have it right here. They played the Ravens, which they lost in terrible fashion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was another heartbreak there. I mean,
then they beat the Raiders before that,
which was crazy.
So 50-50.
Right.
Yeah,
they scored 41 points with no T. Higgins and Jamar Chase,
which is crazy.
Now T. Higgins is expected to play on Sunday. They did say he is going to play on Sunday. So
I hope so.
Yeah, he is expected to play. So factor that all in. What do you have here in this Sunday nighter?
Number one, that was a terrible loss to the Ravens. Like, you could not afford to lose that game. If you wanted any chance of like making a long run, you couldn't lose. You let Lamar drive and make that game-winning drive. To me, that was the dagger in the Bengals season. I know it's early. I know we're not anywhere near the playoffs as of yet, but stick a fork in the Bengals. I just think that was a terrible loss. I think they were leading most of that game, if I'm not mistaken.
I went to bed and they were up 2 touchdowns.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't McPherson miss a few kicks in that game too?
And McPherson's has not had a
he's slumping
McPherson kind of year.
He's slumping, he's missing easy kicks.
I mean, he's missing short ones and he's missing clutch ones. That's what I'm saying. That's why you can't put any of this on Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow's got 24 touchdowns to 4 interceptions this year. So here's not the problem.
Here's what I'm going to say for the first time. Take Joe Burrow out of the equation for a moment and look at the rest of the game. The defense, big problem. Huge problem. They were winning, and I'm trying to look at the box score because I'm just curious to see. So they were up 21-14 going into the third quarter, and they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter. That's death. That's complete death. So I can't pick them. I can't believe I'm not a Chargers fan either.
You're a big Herbert guy.
But I've come around on Herbert a little bit. I like Harbaugh more than Herbert, to be quite honest. They have some good pieces. They're making it finally work. I think it also helps that it's in LA. I think that helps also because I don't think the Bengals are a good road team. So I'm taking the Chargers to win. You're not going to hear me say that very often, but I'm taking the Chargers to win and cover.
You got to pick somebody. Grant, what do you have?
I'm taking. I mean, the Chargers are what 6-4,
6-3.
6-3.
6-3. Okay, so the Chargers are 6-3, and the Bengals are 4-6.
Yeah.
3. Yeah. So I'm gonna take the Chargers to win and cover, and the Jim Harbaugh hire was the best hire of the offseason for sure. I mean, I would have loved it if it was my Bears, but we won't pay a goddamn coach the money that he deserves, apparently. So that's my one diss on George McCaskey and his dysfunctional management of our organization, and it needs to change. It needs to change.
By the way, didn't he play for the Bears during his NFL career?
Yes, he did.
So that's even worse. He wouldn't go and coach a team he played for.
Well, he played for the Chargers too.
But I'm just saying, like, I think he put up big numbers in his Bears career, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. The Bears can't catch a break.
No, they can't.
Well, this should be a thriller over there on Sunday night. All right, one more game here to wrap week 11 up. Nick, Monday Night Football, the Battle of Texas on ESPN. It's Buck, Aikman, and Salters. It's C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans against Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. And the Texans a touchdown favorite.
Oh, man. I don't like this game at all. Like, both sides have problems. C.J. Stroud's been in a slump. He finally played well for the first time in a few games. But I don't know. Do they have Nico Collins back or do they not?
Yes, most likely.
It looks like it's trending that Nico Collins is going to be back there on Monday.
Okay, that's a massive factor. They need him back because Tank Dell has just, like, I like Tank Dell, but he can't be a lead receiver. He just cannot. Like, it's not his role. He's a great second receiver role, slot type guy. Joe Mixon has been great. Ever since he came back from the injury, he's running, he's being aggressive, he's putting touchdowns in. The problem is the offensive line is killing C.J. Stroud. They're lucky that C.J. Stroud has not been hurt the way the offensive line has been going. On the other side of the ball, for the Cowboys are a dumpster fire, and Jerry Jones is a dumpster fire and a clown show. And I mean that, I don't know, I was going to say I mean that in the nicest way, but how can I say that I mean anything nice about Jerry Jones? That's kind of a oxymoron, if you ask me.
Yep.
But I guess since he's not here, I can play
How
it.
about them Cowboys?
So there's no way I'm taking the Cowboys at all. You couldn't pay me to take the Cowboys this week. Texans cover. I just think it's a barely cover, though. I'm not going anywhere near a large cover in this game whatsoever because the Texans still have issues. But Texans cover.
It's funny. You were playing that. I thought for a second you were thinking that the Cowboys would keep it inside the number.
No.
Grant, what about you?
Before I get into my my prediction for this game, I want to ask Nick a random question. Do you think the Cowboys will win any of their remaining games with Cooper Rush as quarterback?
Well, let me quickly do a look at their schedule. I have it right here. So I think they lose to Houston. They're at Washington. I think they lose that because Washington's one of the best home teams in the NFL this year.
Thanksgiving, they will. They'll win Thanksgiving.
What?
Well, one thing I
Cowboys
would
win on Thanksgiving.
We'll see.
one
I
thing
don't
I
know.
would consider with the Commanders is Cliff Kingsbury is very good with his teams in the beginning of the season, but very bad at the end of the season. So
Yeah, but Washington, like Jaden Daniels is running the show there, really at this point.
and I'm not saying that's I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying
Right, I'll
something
quickly
to
give
look
it
at.
to you what I think. Quickly, they're going to beat the Texans. They will beat. They will. I mean, they will lose to the Texans. They will lose to the Commanders on the road. I'll give them one. Fine. I'll give them one for the Giants.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they play the Bengals. The Joe Burrow is way better than anything the Cowboys have.
Yes.
So I have to give the Bengals the win that week. Then they go to Carolina. I could see the Cowboys embarrassing themselves completely and losing that game. I really do.
Really?
Is that game in Carolina?
It's in Carolina.
Well, that's going to be AT&T Stadium East.
So I could see them losing that game. Like they're just going to play. They're going to be the Steelers of old, where they play down to their competition. They think they're going to be better, but they're actually not. Then they play Tampa on Sunday Night Football. Tampa's not an easy team, even though they lost Evans and
Evans will probably be back after
Evans
this
might be
week.
back by then.
If Evans is back, I think Tampa wins.
Evans might be back next week when they play the Giants.
So if that's the case, I would take Tampa to win that. Then they go on the road to Philly. They're going to get destroyed in Philadelphia.
They got destroyed at home. Oh, my gosh.
And then they finish at home versus Washington. So that's three tough games. So if you're asking me, maybe they can win one, maybe two if they could somehow beat Carolina.
Grant, I'll let me pop in with one question for you, though, too. How long is the leash on Cooper Rush? I mean, when do we see Trey Lance?
He was already out there.
For one play.
No, but I'm saying, I thought you meant by technicality. He was out there. But
that was so stupid.
It was stupid. I agree.
Can I be honest with you? I mean, actually, Grant, you make your pick, and then I might actually have to go off on somebody.
Uh-oh.
So,
well,
what do you want to pick?
To answer your question, Johnny, when do we see if we see Trey Lance? God, I mean, just let's think about this logically. The 49ers drafted him with the third overall pick and then proceeded to literally give the job to Mr. Irrelevant because of how bad he was. So maybe you see him the last week because the Cowboys will have nothing to fight for. And
I think it's going to be way before that they're going to have nothing to fight for.
When do you think, Nick?
I would say with at least 3 to 4 weeks left, at least.
Okay. But I'm going to take the Texans to win and cover. This is one of the easiest ones to think about because Cooper Rush cannot throw the ball.
So I just want to say, first and foremost, I actually feel for Mike McCarthy in all of this because
Agreed.
He's in a no-win spot right now. And if I were him, especially after how Micah Parsons pretty much insulted him after last week, I would just resign. Really. I mean, Mike McCarthy doesn't owe anybody anything. He doesn't know that organization a damn thing. And after one of his players, and he could say it's taken out of context. I mean, Micah Parsons needs to grow up and stop acting like a baby. For God's sake. And then he goes out there and tries to roast the Giants about not re-signing Saquon Barkley. I mean, dude, focus on your own team that's done less with more than anybody else in the NFL over the last decade. I mean, seriously, you get all the attention in the world and you don't win the most important game. You know what? My team's sucks. Don't get me wrong, but we've done more with less than you've done your whole life. So go out there and focus on the field. All right. I mean, and grow up and maybe win a game. All right. So number one. Number two. All right. Let's get. So I do feel for Mike McCarthy in that regard, and Micah Parsons. I mean, just go out and do it on the field. Maybe surprise, shock the world this week. But so I wanted to show everybody something. We spoke about how this show is now really 3 years old. So 2 years ago, this game happened in week 14 2 years ago. Nick and I were on, And does anybody remember what that
Oh,
game
I saw
was
that
like?
tweet that you said. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
I don't remember.
Look at this real quick. I don't know if you guys can see this. This was 2 years ago. Look at that line.
Oh my God.
That is the biggest line that we've ever done in the history of this show. And
Wow.
that was this matchup just 2 years ago. The Cowboys
Holy
were
cow.
17.5-point favorite.
Whoa.
Look at what has happened to these two teams in the last 2 years,
A flip-flop.
right? You're talking about an almost 25-point swing in 2 years.
Damn.
And the crazy thing was, if you remember that game, the Texans almost won that game. Forget just covering. They almost won that. So, I mean, you never know in what 2 years, right? So the Texans almost won that game. And I see a repeat of that kind of matchup, but the other way. Because it's easy to pick the Texans to win and cover because of how much of a mess the Cowboys are, and they are. But, Nick, you said it too. The Texans have not been great at all. I mean, they've lost 2 straight, 3 out of their last 4. C.J. Stroud has regressed a lot this year. Now, you could say that's because of the injuries, and that has something to do with it.
And the offensive line.
And the offensive line. I mean, in the last 4 games, when they've lost 3 out of 4, he's completed just over 53% of his passes.
He's not even throwing for 100 yards in some of these games.
Yeah, I mean, the game against the Packers, he threw for 86?
It was bad. It was an embarrassing game.
I mean, it's the last 4 games was 15% lower than his first 6. He's also, and the other thing too is he's got 18 sacks. Like you said, the offensive line, he's got 18 sacks in the past 4 games.
He's getting murdered. Like, he can't stay up on his feet.
So it's going to help to have Nico Collins back there. I mean, not having him has definitely been a blow. Now Stephon Diggs is out for the year too. That's also a blow.
He's also been a headache.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and we all criticize the Bills for letting him go. It looks like the Bills knew what they were doing, right?
Seriously.
Yeah, he's always been a locker room problem.
He has. Yeah, we've heard about that before. Guys, there's too many problems on both of these teams to take the Texans to win and cover this game. I'm taking Dallas plus the 7. I'm going to take the Texans to win. But I just think when you have all the problems that the Texans have right now, and I don't know if I think they might be able to clarify some of them, but maybe because this game's not going to be in the daylight in the afternoon, and you don't have to hear about the sunlight being an excuse. Maybe the Cowboys make it interesting. By the way, that's another thing too, Jerry. You've had the stadium for years. You know that the sunlight is a factor, especially because you're playing late afternoon games a lot. I didn't hear you make that as an excuse when the Cowboys were winning all of those games. I mean, my God, this guy is the worst. You know what I love? And it's very simple. This is why the Cowboys are struggling. Number 1, Jerry Jones. Number 2, Jerry Jones. Number 3, Jerry Jones. You know who's the only person that doesn't know why he's a problem? Jerry Jones. So
let's just talk about this for a second.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's just talk about this for a second. So Jerry Jones is probably I at least believe he's the richest NFL owner
in sports.
And
yeah,
besides Steve Cohen.
Major.
Besides Steve Cohen in baseball.
Anyway, he's
the
richest NFL owner in the NFL, and he won't, just give up, what, $100 million to the stadium to put fucking blinds up.
Oh, Grant, you don't need to update the stadium. They just
fix the team.
You fix the team. Stop making excuses.
Oh, we're gonna make all the moves. We're gonna spend all the money.
Listen, Jerry Jones is a great business owner. He is an awful football owner, and he is an awful general manager.
Hire a GM,
this
please.
Guy, and for a team that wins 10-plus games every year and makes the playoffs more not, this team has done less with more than any other team in the National Football League.
I mean, I have a hot take now to end the show.
How do you top what I just said?
Oh, yeah, you'll hear it in a second.
You're usually pretty good at this, so Nick, go for it.
So, number 1. I'm going to follow up on something you said about Michael Parsons, okay?
Yeah.
Shut the hell up, number 1, because this guy has been injured and has not been on the field. So, like you said, do it on a field sometime and let your play do the talking, number 1. Number 2, if you saw a clip circulating around on social media from our playback stream where I went after Paul George for his podcast and I said it's a huge distraction and whatever, and I'm done with it, and it's a horrible podcast. Well, guess what? Micah Parsons' podcast sucks. Number 2. Stop with the podcast. The Cowboys, when they make their negotiation and they say, we'll give you the money, put in a clause in the contract that says no more podcast. I'm done. Stop with the podcast. If you want the big money, your focus is the Dallas Cowboys, and that stupid podcast with Bleacher Report can go away. It's enough. And if I were the Dallas Cowboys, and this is the one that everyone's going to get on me for, I would cut Micah Parsons and be done. Because he's a huge egomaniac. Egomaniacs do what in the NFL? They don't win.
Who's the GM?
Oh yeah, that's right. I
How
forgot.
about them Cowboys?
That's the problem. But you know what, though? I'm going to take them to cover despite all of that because these two teams have a lot of flaws.
You know, you and I are going to get flack for those Cowboys hot takes, right?
But seriously, I mean, this is not going to be like last week when we should have been destroyed for all taking for all bench locking the Vikings. What was wrong in what I said? Jerry Jones.
No, you're 100% right.
I mean, listen, if they want to get better, Jerry should give somebody else the GM position and he should sell the team. The team is worth $10 billion.
It's probably the most valuable franchise in professional sports.
But he just doesn't see it. That's the thing. And you know what? That's fine. You know what? If the Cowboys want to continue to live in this mediocrity that they've been in for 20-something years, and I get they've won 10-plus games, but this team has not made the Super Bowl in over 30 years. Honestly, you know what the smartest mind probably to bring in, and they'll never do this, but the smartest mind to bring in for that organization to fix these problems is Troy Aikman. But he will never do that, and Troy Aikman will never leave
to be the head coach.
I would say to be the president or the GM of the organization.
I mean, I'll give you another name, but you might think it's ridiculous and it's never going to happen. Bill Belichick.
He won't do that. Why do you think that some programming on ESPN keeps talking about Deion Sanders?
By the way,
same Deion Sanders that's talking about that. Oh, I need to have a play. I need to have a discussion about Shador and Travis Hunter being drafted. It is the match made in heaven. But Jerry will never do that because he does not. He wants the control.
Oh, I fully disagree with you on this one. I think he would hire Deion Sanders just for clout.
It's a match made in heaven.
That's the only reason why I disagree with you. I agree with everything else you're saying.
What I mean though is I think the only reason why Jerry would not do it is Deion wants like more control and stuff. That's what it is.
First of all, anyone that goes there is never getting control away from Jerry. If that were the case, Jerry wouldn't go on 105.3 The Fan on the RJ and whatever show and do his GM interview show every week. That's power in a nutshell for you.
That's why I feel bad for Mike McCarthy and all of this because it's really not his fault.
If I'm Mike McCarthy right now, I'd walk into that room with Jerry Jones and say "F you," and then just drop the mic and walk out.
I would resign, but McCarthy is too much of a class act to do that. But if I were him, especially what I've seen the last couple of weeks, when my GM has done nothing to help me improve this team, all he talks about he's all in, and he's done nothing to improve.
What has he been all in for, though?
The biggest move that they've made this year
Zeke
was going out there and trading for that Panthers wide receiver and giving up more than what the Chiefs gave up for DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, I thought you were talking about off-season moves. Then Zeke.
Yeah, and Zeke, who they actually had a bench because of personnel.
Suspend.
Right.
For conduct detrimental.
What a mess. And you know what? It could not happen to a better organization. And that, my friends, is a pen drop and the way that it will wrap up week 11 of the football forecast.
What an episode. I can't wait for Tom to go through this one, to pull our hot takes out of this one. This is going to be a heck of an episode. If you liked everything you watched and you heard, make sure you follow us on social media at TFB Forecast ETB. If you want to hear Johnny and my rants on how the Cowboys stink and their organization is terrible, don't miss the clips because they are going to be good ones. Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. locks of the week. You're probably the lone wolf of the week this week.
A couple of times, yeah.
We could do a crybaby clip of the week. Actually, this week we probably could. But there's so many. Just make sure you check everything out. YouTube.com/ETB Network to find this show and all other shows involved in the Empty the Bench podcast network. Don't forget Grant's Game Day, which comes out on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where he goes through and basically it's like a tailgate to get you ready for Sunday morning, right before the games. So he goes through about 4 or 5 of the biggest games of the week, except for Sunday night and Monday night, because we do those on this show. So make sure you check that out as well. And I think by next week, the full crew is going to be back. So this will be an interesting week to react to when everybody comes back.
Yep.
So I think that'll do it. So for Johnny Montalbano, Grant Winsauer, I'm Nick Morganson. Enjoy week 11 of football as much as you can. Not thinking about the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe not thinking about the Jets or Giants because we're all suffering. Or the Bears. I'll throw the Bears in there too.
Sunday.
So do your best to watch every other football game. And we will be back for week 12 of the football forecast next week. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next time.